Hi. Hi, everybody. I am Ross and I am an alcoholic. Um, I didn't know that, for a long time. I thought that my problem wasn't my drinking and my rampant drug use, which I will kind of touch on, but I'm not going to get into it here. I thought my problem was my teachers didn't understand that, my friends' parents didn't understand that, I had trauma as a kid. What the fuck? My dogs are going crazy. And it took a lot of pain and a lot of hard knocks to really accept that I was an alcoholic. And both of my parents were alcoholics. My mom died when I was 12, and like my dad like started drinking again after that. And I just remember like he got sober like this. He had like a heart attack one year, and then he was like in a coma for a few months. I just remember telling myself like I'm fucking never gonna be like that guy at all. And I remember when I started drinking and started having some consequences. And he was like, Ross, I think you might be an alcoholic. And I was like, hey, man, shut the fuck up. You're an alcoholic. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you literally, it's funny that, like, if my dad was ever right about anything, it was that. So, yeah, needless to say, it talks about in the book, like, where you have, like, a certain type of like hard drinker that if something like ill health or like a life circumstantial change like marriage or something, if something like that comes along, then they're able to stop drinking. But the real alcoholic, that's exactly what I am. Like I just get stuck in this negative feedback loop where it's like I just set myself up for problems so I can have reasons to drink, and I don't know that I'm doing it. And so yeah, needless to say, like I turned 21 in jail, and a guy named Kevin with like hair growing out of his ears was bringing meetings in, and I went to one with him when I got out, and everyone was like welcoming me and they were happy I was there. And that wasn't weird. That was pretty common. The thing that I found weird is I had not had the chance to tell them who I was yet, like I always thought like I had to manipulate people into liking me, and that like I had to have something to offer. And so I just kind of wrote it off as a cult. Like they had me do a reading. I started getting choked up crying. I was like, okay, there's some fucking voodoo magic here. I didn't actually think that, but like I got really uncomfortable. Like I'm not used to unconditional love. So I took off, and I did a geographical, moved out from Georgia to California because like Georgia was my problem. And by this time, like I already had warrants in Oklahoma and Arkansas from, just going all over. And my next meeting that I went to was like a year and a half later. I was like homeless, living under a bridge. And I finally, like, my therapist was like, you should probably go to a meeting. And I was like, shit, man, you really think it's gotten that bad? And I had all these things going on where like I was like convinced that like, okay, I can't stay sober, like, because I would get like 1-2 weeks at a time and relapse. And like I thought it was like, okay, I'm homeless, I have no place to stay, and like I just came up with all these reasons. And then on top of that, I was like 23 years old at that time. And I just felt like I had a lot of lost time I had to make up for. Eventually, after one of my relapses, someone who like ran a sober living told me I could come crash on the couch, and they said just get into some steps and just take it easy. But what I heard is, okay, you need to get your entire life back on track. That needs to be top priority. The step stuff, yeah, we talk about it, but like what's really important, you need to get back into school, you need to get a job, this and that. And I was like, years of like using IV drugs, and now I'm like looking at labels on fucking food and like trying to quit smoking cigarettes. And like I got back into college, and like I just remember like around I got 60 days and then relapse the night before one of my finals. And then like I got like a month and a half, and in that time I was like trying to quit smoking and stuff. And I like stressed myself out and gave myself shingles. And then so that was just like my entire 20s, man, was like trying to get sober, trying to have a life worth living. And like really, talks in the book about like, isn't he a victim of the delusion that he could wrest happiness and satisfaction out of life if only he manages well? Dude, not only did like I think God had like a vendetta with me, not only did I think that like everything bad that had happened to me happened because like God had like some sort of beef with me. I thought I was like God's mistake, and because of that, like there was just so much, like I thought I was like entitled to happiness. And like when I tell you like alcohol and drugs saved my life, because like I was, like I had relief for some years. Like I could kind of hide from myself, and I felt comfortable being around people. And like I really did not care what life threw at me. As long as I had it in my system, I was good. And and then it like started to turn on me, and like I thought I was just unlucky with all these fucking consequences. So like I was like, I got a felony and just did the whole in and out probation violation after violation. And I finally was able to get sober, and they like paid for my job training. I was like fighting fires. I had like a year, and I like went and relapsed on some acid, thinking that wasn't like a relapse. And like within 15 minutes, I had a fucking beer in my hand. I was like, I need a fucking drink. And I tried to hold it together, and it got to where like I was out, like I was drinking till like 2 a.m., waking up at 5, going to work, drinking at work sometimes, drinking on my way home from work. And this is like, I wasn't telling anyone about this, and I was just going to meetings. And like up to this point, I'd only ever worked up to the third step. And I just thought that I had gotten my life to a point where it's like, okay, I'm finally got a grown man job. I'm off of felony probation. Like the world is my oyster. I can manage this shit now. It's like, thanks God for all this awesome stuff. I'll take it from here. And so yeah, then the pandemic happened, and and like I lost a promotion that I was getting, and then I got arrested like in the middle of that promotion, and that's like part of why I lost it. And then that's at the beginning of the pandemic. So the entire pandemic was just like, I already had my whole life just like ripped out from under me by alcohol and drugs. And it was just a progression of wanting to die even more the next day than I did the day before, but for like 2 years. But I'm not wanting to kill myself in the conventional sense. I just figured, what I was doing was going to do the job. And it didn't. So fast forward 2 years, my dad, who hadn't talked to me in like 2 years, is like in the hospital, has a stroke. in Oklahoma. So like I fly out there to go say goodbye, and he like started getting better, and I was like taking care of him for a little bit. He ends up going back into the hospital, and I like disappear for a few days, like go to the casino, and like the day after Thanksgiving I show up, and I hadn't slept in like 3 or 4 days, and you know, when I came in, like my sisters were there, and like the doctor was like, okay, listen, we need to make a decision now on what's going to happen with him, because like his condition is not going to improve. I was like, yo, can you back up, give me 5 minutes? And like the doctor was like, didn't like my tone, called security. Long story short, like I got tased. I went and got fingerprinted at the jail for trespassing because I tried to go back into the hospital after they kicked me out of it. And, you know, I got out of the police station and they told me that my dad had passed away. And that was a fucking low, dude. And, you know, I just the amount of effort that it would have taken to just keep going and doing what I was doing, I had nothing to put into it. I was just like, I don't even want to live that bad. So like, how long can this go on? And so, you know, God kind of walked in. I had an opportunity, where like my grandparents like kind of knew I relapsed. No one knew how bad it was. I showed up. I hadn't like cut my hair in 2 years, and I show up on their doorstep, and they're like worried I'm about to die. I couldn't get into any like detox program because I had the flu. And I show up Christmas Day, dude. Christmas fucking miracle. And I wasn't even planning on getting sober. It was just like, I was just like, I'll just kind of get a job and do whatever until I can go run my life back into the ground. So I wasn't sleeping for about a month. And in that month, a friend of mine, like I started going to meetings, and a friend of mine pointed out some parts in the book to me that like I had never heard before because I had never read it. And, you know, I thought that Alcoholics Anonymous was like a program where I'd stop drinking, and like come to find out like stopping drinking is only the beginning of the work that has to be done. And you know, show me a few sections that like I really like on page 45 where it talks about lack of power, that is our dilemma. Like, well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is like I'm butchering it, but it's to, you know, help you find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. I started doing the steps. And I don't know, man. Like I really took it to heart, everything that I had to do. So I just got a sponsor, got in the book, and you know, I actually did my 4th step. Like I never thought that it was something that would be done. Because I'm fucking lazy. But yeah, when I did that, and I looked at all the way back to like 3 or 4 years old, like 200 something plus resentments. I saw the ways in which like I'm affected by things that other people do, but really I'm the one who sets the shit in motion. Every single one of my resentments, I thought I would have some justifiable ones. They were all things that like I just delusionally told myself about what other people are doing and why they're doing it. And then I looked at my part, and you know, I gotta say, like, there's a lot of stuff that like I carried around for a lot of years, and I was either the best person in the world or the worst person in the world. There was no in between. There was no just existing as a fucking human being. And you know, doing my 4th and doing my 5th, you know, I found a lot of peace. I wasn't so quick to judge others, and like I really want to say that's the time where I learned, like, began to learn like genuine empathy. Like now, I was judging the world and everyone by their actions, but I wanted people to judge me by my intentions. I wanted people to understand, like, I'm not a bad person, even though I do all these fucked up things and steal and like pawn my mom's wedding ring and shit, like all kinds of stuff that is really just like run of the mill typical alcoholic behavior, you know. Like it's just that somewhere on the line that's like the natural progression of alcoholism. And sorry, I'll wrap this up in like 3 or 4 minutes. You know, I got to do amends with my family where, like, before, every time I got sober, I was like, I wanted everyone to make concessions for me. I was like, I'm fucking sober, dude. You should be proud of me, without changing any of my behaviors. And like my family would be like, yeah, dude, we're so proud of you. But finally they had learned that, like, if I'm talking about how fucking good I'm doing, I'm not. Like, it's a front. And so this time I wasn't like trying to impress them or anything, and they saw like a genuine change, which was like part of like my spiritual experience. And I got to make amends to my aunt. And you know, I've just always been a really hard person to be around. And you know, the day after I made that amends, I was like on my way to the airport, and she called me and she was like, you know, Ross, I want to let you know, having you around us, I haven't been able to say this in a long time, but it's been a real joy having you around. And like, I started making financial amends for money that I owe her. Like, you know, I always felt separate from my family. And then like, I realized through the 4th and 5th step and through like living some fucking principles that, like, the way I saw my entire life was just bullshit. I had these shit colored glasses. That's what it was. And so, and then I started, like, throughout this time, I had like gone to a few YPA conferences, which before it sounded like kind of church camp to me. And I was like, no, dude, I don't, like, yeah, I'm sober, but like, I don't really want to be like that sober. But my own friends I had like been in the shit with, like, in our disease, you know, told me to go, and it'd be a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, like, a whole new world opened up to me. Like, you know, it was just people who were just genuinely happy to be sober and who aren't taking themselves too seriously. And like, I found a family in YPA. And I wanted to touch on that. And like, so I ended up getting involved in service with a few YPA committees. I started one back in Georgia for, if you know where Athens, Georgia is, you know, like a standing committee. You know, like, I wanted people to have the experience that, like, I had. And you know, I'm on a host committee. We're hosting a conference here in Dallas this weekend called Circuit Paw. You should check it out. I'll announce it later on in the meeting. But and now I sponsor guys, and I've actually taken a guy through the steps. And I didn't tell you guys my sobriety date. It's December 26th, 2021. Anything I have in my life, which I can be grateful for, I have it all. I have Alcoholics Anonymous to thank for all of it, and for like a connection with God where that I trust most days, and I don't have to get too defective in my behaviors and like try to control everything. I'm not perfect, and you know, this is a lifelong thing, but I'm sold on it. And I didn't work the steps until I just like was shit out of options, and I had no other good ideas, and I just had nothing else to do. Or they say in the 12 and 12 that, you know, the pain is the price of admission. And you know, I'm really glad that I have the tools to live now, and Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you for asking me to speak tonight. Have a good night, everybody.